to Echoes and Roots. I'm Sabine and I guide you back to nature, your inner wisdom, and our ancestral ways of living in harmony with Mother Earth and the cosmos. Welcome everybody to today's episode. I am going to cover the origins of our race, of humanity. And as I'm presenting this information to you, this is an invitation for you to see what resonates and what doesn't. And really, with all information that's been presented to you, it's always about, is this information helpful to you? Is this information beneficial? Does it help you to feel more home, more whole? And when I started to remember some of this information and then also came across sources that had even more in-depth knowledge around this, and one of the main sources that I'm also going to take information from for this podcast is Ashana Dean's earlier work. To me, it gave me just a lot of reassurance and homecoming, and knowing that what I've always felt as a little child, that I wasn't wrong, because I always felt that we were not created to live in a world that is full of wars and division and poverty and human trafficking and so much duality. I always felt there was a different way. We have lived a different way, and there's a path to live a different way. And we've only known these two stories about our origin, right? One of them is we are coming from apes, and therefore we have a lot of animal instincts, and that's why we're acting out in the ways we are acting, And the other story is we are somehow created by God, and the woman is created out of the rib of the man, is it like that? And we are the quintessential sinners. And in both of these stories, there is quintessentially something a little bit faulty with us, with our design. And actually, nothing could be further from the truth. And we have such an incredible blueprint. And a lot of what I'm presenting to you today is coming from my course, Humanity the Reclamation. I'm going into much more depth in that course. So if that information is resonating with you, if you want to dive deeper, if you also want to know some solutions and things how you can work on to actually regain your own memory, because this is about us really truly knowing who we are, and then being able to make choices that allow us to create for ourselves, for our inner world, but also for our outer world, right? For the society we'll live in, to create societies that really support health and peace and harmony. And I'm sorry my sound quality today isn't great because I do really need a new computer. It's just a little reminder that my microphone just doesn't work today. Or the computer doesn't work today, but that's so good. Technology. Yes, so, but let's get into the information. So, where are we actually coming from? If we're not coming from apes, if we are not just like randomly created from God, where are we coming from? And this goes back to what is actually the fabric of our universe, the time matrix we are born into, we were created into. So the time matrix we are created into is a 15-dimensional time matrix. And within this 15-dimensional time matrix, we have like 5 different harmonic universes. So from the different density levels, you're going up basically. Density 1 to 3 is the first harmonic universe, and that is the most densest place. And this is where we find ourselves in, right? We are on the third dimension. And then we go into harmonic 2, which is density 4, 5, 6. Then harmonic 3, density 7, 8, 9. Am I correct? Yes, then fourth harmonic is 11, 10, 11, 12. And then the fifth harmonic, the dimensions 13, 14, 15 is the God field. Is the trinity of the God field. And what is God? God is not just some guy sitting up there with a bunch of angels. No, it's a field of intelligence, of consciousness that first creates sound. Sound is the first form of creation. And from sound originates three different light rays. And these are the blue ray, the gold ray, and the purple violet ray, from which in all other color spectrums are created. And in the God field, in this Trinity field of consciousness, of intelligence, is really based on the concepts of love. There is a deep, it's very harmonic. It's just such harmonic sounds, and out of this comes this beautiful harmonic creation. And from there, then life forms, planets, galaxies, stars, life forms are created out of that. And there is, in between the different dimensional layers, there are passageways which are stargates. So you can go from dimension 1 or from harmonic universe 1 into the next one, right? And you find these stargates on our planet as well, but you also find them, of course, in the galaxies, the universes. Now, we as humans, I often refer to us as kind of angelic, even though I think the name angels is really misleading, because there's only life forms, there's only galactic beings. So if you are seeing something that appears like an angel, that is a galactic being, and it's good to ask that galactic being who they are, what their intentions are, because a lot of darkness disguises themselves as light. Either way, so but it's, yeah, we often refer to ourselves as angelic humans because we were created with a 12-strand DNA. So we are coming directly out of the God field of 13, 14, 15 dimension, which is the trinity of the God sound field. And we are created out of that. And we, with this 12-strand DNA, we can move up all dimensions, and we are always connected back to God. We can basically ascend all dimensions. That is we have an absolute incredible DNA, how we were created, and that is also the promised evolution of our race was meant to be, that we are evolving through the different dimensions. And with this DNA, literally, when you are created with a 12-strand DNA, you do not experience sickness, you do not experience death. It's your own choice to basically transition into like a different life form, and you can ascend. You can literally move through dimensions. You can move through stargates. This is the 12-strand DNA. So you can have these different consciousness levels, and you can turn these dimensions within your DNA on and off. And we started off as breatharians with no gender. So we did not have to eat. We were here not that dance. We basically just breathed in like sunlight, like the life force, the rays of God. And as we are also working, of course, with the energy exchange, with the energy around us, we sustained life like that without any kind of disease. Now, as we know, how did we end up here? Well, it's a story that I'm going to tell, but our DNA right now is pretty damaged, our DNA template. And we have a way back up to activating this 12-strand DNA. So, but what happened in the overall system of our time matrix? So we have this 15-dimensional time matrix. Creation is usually connected to God. Now, what happens with creation? So the God field creates all kind of different races, planets, and then there's free will. Everything is created under the law of one, and part of that is free will. So you let the races then evolve, and of course, what happens is interbreeding happens. And we know this from ourselves, right? Here, if families interpret too much, you get some DNA problems. Well, same habit. You got some DNA mutations. And what came out of that is what we call the fallen angelics, which is literally, again, just a description of a problem in your DNA where you are no longer connected. You can no longer ascend directly through your DNA up into the 13, 14, 15 dimension, into the God field, because your DNA strands is not 12 strands like ours, it's potentially 11, 10, 9, that's the maximum of the potential of the DNA. And what this creates is a feeling of separation from God. And when you start to feel separated from the God field, you start to feel separated from the infinite source of energy also, and from the infinite source of love, you basically then start to often create systems that are very self-serving out of survival and fear modus. So these kind of then races that were created out of this fallen matrix, this fallen DNA matrix, then basically started to take over other races in order, because they had to consume energies of others, because they were running a lot of like egotistical, self-serving motivations, power, power domination, etc. So they kind of play God a little bit. And from that, there's a lot of races that we have to do with that coming out of these fallen systems. The Draconians, the Anunnakis are the main. We have to do with other things like the Cetas, whatever as well, but the Anunnakis specifically, but also the Draconians are main races we are having a lot to do here as humans. We have quite interesting soul contracts with them. And now, if you have too much of this fallen matrix going on, of course, what happens is, as they are starting to control other planets, take them over, consume energies of others, then whole planets become wormholes, whole other planets get sucked into this. Too much of creation gets destroyed. And this is something that, of course, under the God field cannot happen, because you cannot allow something to destroy all of creation. So this is me personally, I do not believe in angels in a way, but I believe in the police. So to me, there is a consciousness level. It is up generally in the 13th, 14th, 15th in the bands of the God field. And then it also lowers down into different races that were created and different councils, where you have kind of a police of the law of one that is intervening if too much damage is happening. So it's a little bit like, imagine creation is just like, free will, everything gets created and there's some problems. It's like a group of toddlers in the daycare without any kind of adult. What happens, of course, if you have a group of toddlers alone, it's like they can have like little accidents, so they injure themselves, they need to be like consoled. They maybe destroy some things, they maybe get into fights with each other, like it's getting wild. And this is galactic history. This is literally, this is God's creation, and everything is under God. Also the fallen, what we call the fallen angelic, it's part of the God, it's part of God's creation, but it's getting a bit wild at times. So then, of course, you do need an adult to come in to put bandage on, right? To save some races from extinction, to allow also, and that is also the promise, of course, of the God field, is that under creation, all of these races that have some sort of DNA mutations, which we now have too as well, can evolve back into the original connection with God, the oneness with God. So of course, also these races, the Draconians, the Anunnakis, they are offered many opportunities to, it's called bioregenesis of their DNA, to basically also have then evolve up into 12 set. And we have many different, we had a lot of interpreting, especially with the Anunnaki, with the Draconians as well. The Draconians are not so interested though, I think, in like evolving up. So I think They kind of want to stay with their domineering agenda. But some of the draconian, some of the Anunnaki fractions are evolving with us, but with most of them they don't, and we have quite some issues with them in general. But so this is what these guardian councils are busy with. They're busy cleaning up the mess and intervening with the free with intervention means you are not having war against someone. Even though if someone destroys a whole system, you are not going into war with them. You are trying to negotiate. You are trying to have to save some races. You have these kind of interventions. So that's what I call the galactic police. Now, when we were created, we had two different planets in a way. Well, we were created on the planet Tara. That is in harmonic 2, density 456, so on density level 5. That was our original planet Tara. And Tara had a counterpart in density 3. Oh no, it's harmonic 3 on harmonic 3 on density 7. Yes, Gaia is on 7. So we had Tara and Gaia on 7. And you need to see this because things become less and less physical, right? So Tara is very physical. Gaia is still in a way pretty physical, but less. Much less. And then the higher evolved, because we have a 12-strand DNA, would be really like a non-physical manifestations of us. And we actually, we are on other planets too. Like our genome is on other planets. The same human genome, but in different life forms, is on other planets. One is Mintaka. They have also Orphan genome that we have too. And there's others. So we have Tara and Gaia. And on Gaia, two root races, we call them root races, were seeded. They are called the Polarians and the Hyperboreans, and it's two is actually really one, but because you have particles, you have plus and minus, right? Always in the universe, you have the law of polarity, which is not the law of division, it's simply the law of plus and minus of polarity. So you have the Polarians and the Hyperboreans now, and they are the root race on Gaia, 7th dimension. And they have no gender, they're very etheric in nature, they're very tall, and you find traces of their history here on Earth. We have many stories about the Hyperboreans. I actually teach a lot on the Hyperborean history because this is one of the races that I have a lot of memory from. And the Hyperboreans actually, in order to help us, once Tara blew up, I'm gonna come to this part, but and once we came here on Earth came into existence, the Hyperboreans wanted to help us back to evolve back to our initial path of ascension, of evolution. And so the Hyperboreans incarnated here. There is portals here. I know I've been to 2 portals that link, because we were always linked, Tara always linked into Gaia for ascension, because that's the promise of our 12-strand DNA, is we can ascend up, right? We can make this, you can live however long you wanted to be on Tara, and then you evolved your DNA and you said, okay, now I'm a level higher, I'm going to go on Gaia. This is the promise of our 12-strand DNA. This is what we can do. And how do you do this? Well, a lot is through sound, like you evolve your psychic perceptions, but especially you evolve your DNA strands, you evolve like what kind of density level you are in and what kind of consciousness level you have. So how much of consciousness, how much you can perceive as well, but a lot is through sound. We were doing, okay, I'm going to come to this, all the sound temples, but so the Hyperboreans, there was a time when they came down here to Earth. There's 2 portals that I know of. There's another one that I'm investigating in, but one is in Orkney, one is in Malta, because the temples of Malta, the megalithic temples of Malta, I encourage you, watch my material on Malta, it's on YouTube. They were built by our Hyperborean ancestors. It's an incredible technology they put down here to help us. Again, this was after the the full takeover 10,000 BC by Anunnaki draconian fractions, and kind of the downfall of the Atlantean civilization. But they came here to teach us a lot of the forgotten knowledge about ourselves, and also how, again, to cultivate our higher perception, to heal a lot of the DNA digression we are having, to heal a lot of the implants we are having, to heal a lot of the Metatronic implants and everything that's blocking us from really accessing our different, our higher DNA strands. And so they built these incredible temples, and they had to, in order to be able to be on Earth in this density, they had to surround themselves with a certain level of frequencies. That's why all of these temples are sound temples. They have this incredible underground hypogeums. They are the most advanced underground sound temples I've seen so far from all my travels. And it allowed them to sustain themselves, but also to pull in souls, because, okay, I'm going to come to this, but the temples are directed towards Sirius because back then the evolutionary path to Tara wasn't open, but you could go via Sirius into our morphogenetic DNA field, and so they could basically come down from Gaia, as Tara was blown up by the time, down sort of through Sirius down here, and then also go back up that way, ascend back out. But this is so. These are the root races, the Hyperboreans, and there is a lot of Hyperborean history also recorded in the Creek landmass. As I said, they had an involvement in Orkney. There's many other places. I think they had an involvement, incredible ancestors of us that always try to assist us to not have our race extinct, because we are a little bit, in all honesty, we are a little bit wild. We are getting ourselves in all kind of problems all the time to go to extinction to learn a couple of things. I'm sometimes thinking we are like in the kindergarten age of the evolution of our incredible 12-strand template, because we are learning lessons over and over again to not mess up too much and not blow up too many things. So yeah, but back on Tara. So this is the root race Gaia. Now, the one many memories that people will have from, because the root race is kind of really ethereal, the Hyperboreans, is really our existence on Tara, on our original planet. So on Tara, fifth dimension, we were seated, like Ashana Dean calls it, the Turanesiums. I don't know, this doesn't really resonate. I mean, the name itself, but maybe we were called that way. Who created us? Who created this incredible 12-strand DNA template, the human, with the root races on Gaia, but then also the main incarnations right on Tara? Well, so our ancient ancestors are the Lyrans. That's why the Lyrans are feline hominid. I hope I say this correctly, race, and that's why many people feel really strong connection to the Lyrans. They are in harmonic 3, so density 789, and they have from there on created the Elohim, which we work a lot with. And the Elohim oversee the Syrian races in harmonic 2, which is density 426. And the Elohim then became one of the many supervising groups for the creation of us, the human. So we have some Lyran DNA, we have some Syrian DNA. It was just one of the overseeing groups. We have some other DNAs. We have, like, when you think about this, we are really one of, there's not so many races that have a 12-strand DNA. We have an incredible gene pool. I mean, originally, it was just like an absolute beautiful creation. Beautiful planet we have been given. Tara is, we were evolved with, that is the planet we've been given. We are always so tight. That's why we cannot just, forget about the mother, our planet. This is like what belongs to us, just as, how do I say this even? Like, the planet is a reflection of us. So Tara, like what we have, our crystalline 12-strand crystalline structure, is also was in Tara. and is all the stargates that we have these little like kind of stargates within us which help us to basically activate our DNA in the 12th strand, and then the stargates are on Tara, and now they're on Earth. Not open though right now, but because it will blow ourselves up if they were open right now. But we had them on Tara open. We could just evolve. We could just walk through them into different density levels. We had a very open exchange of all kind of galactic races. There was just like, it was a really interesting time on Tara, and I think many of us have we actually have a lot of memories from Tara. And already on Tara, we kind of divided a little bit into two groups, the Alania and the Lumia. And this is so interesting because we have replayed that history down here on Earth with the Lemurians and Atlanteans. Because already on Tara, we kind of had these two different groups. One was a little bit more into technology, that was the Alanians. The other ones, the Lumias, were just a little bit more focused on the nature. We had these massive, if you remember that, we have actually, because Earth is a part of Tara still, we have still a lot of, in the landmass, we have a lot of memories recorded from our time in Tara. So these things like these massive trees that we have reminiscence of, this is from Tara already. And us like having circles around trees, and us really being so closely connected to nature and having these incredible waterfalls and these healing waters. And it's just, yeah, Tara was absolutely beautiful. Of course, we also had so much knowledge back then. We could control the weather. We had incredible crystals that were a part of the planetary system. Yeah, we had a lot of visitors, also a lot of from other races, and yeah. And the Lumia back then, they moved to a landmass that is known as Mu, and the memories of Mu, even that history, it's still ingrained in Earth. And back then, they made this council of Mu. And what happened already back then, we've gone a little bit wild because we as humans, I think we just, I don't know, we just love experimenting. So we've done some interbreeding. We've interpreted with all kind of different galactic races, and it did digress our original DNA codes, because of course when you start interbreeding with all kind of races also that have, as I said, come from a fallen system that have a code that's lesser than 12 strand, yeah, this issue's gonna rise, right? So I started to do that, and it got us into a little bit problems. So we started to work actually with the Syrian Council again, because we wanted to heal the digression of our DNA. And from this sort of like the pre-sort of Mu arised. They were slightly more matriarchal. They were working with the law of one. There was, again, we had many practices already back then to heal this digression of the DNA. And as I said, these are many spiritual ascension practices where you work with sound. Nowadays it comes down to a lot of inner work, because now all this consciousness is within us, very ingrained to polarity. So it's really about getting to know yourself very well, and doing a lot of self-reflection, and healing like wounds in yourself. Because also when you think about the fallen system, the biggest kind of thing there is the separation from God. So when you feel separated from God, you feel separated also from love and also from your worth. And these things like your self-worth, in my last episode I said, like, nowadays, right, we are tying self-worth into consumerism. That's how we created a whole religion of buying things. But it's really healing those parts, like knowing we are worthy, knowing we are part of God's creation. And actually also the fallen races, everybody is part of God's creation. There is no such thing as you're not being of God. And healing that and finding the birth within, but then also making the right choices, boundaries. I think this is one thing that got us always already on Tara a little bit into trouble, is we have, not into trouble, but we have a very open heart, which is beautiful as humans. We have this beautiful heart field, and that's also now with the whole transhumanism agenda. It's like, do you want to actually give that up? This is our biggest gift, is our ability to feel love and to feel like all the feelings are good, like fear, anger, all the feelings are actually valid. But to feel all of that and to have compassion and to really act out of the heart, and to, when you are part of the God field, I mean, how can you feel deep love when you are not have an open heart, right? And that's the point. Like, do we want to become a machine, right? Then yeah, we don't feel anything, but I mean, we are also no longer connected to the frequency of God, because that is a sound field of love. So if you can't feel it, but anyway, our biggest gift is that big heart and that big heart field. And we have to, I think, at times not have had enough discernment around certain choices and who to interact with, and what kind of galactic races to interact and breed with, and what to try out and what not, and what teachings to follow and what not. I think there is where we are a little bit naive, and we're still learning from this. To have more discernment, to protect really what is sacred, to really be like, look, there's certain things, like life is sacred, our children are sacred, our health, like the waters, our nature, our planet is sacred. If we don't protect this, if we blow up all kind of things, like, yeah, if we destroy the planet, if we abuse the planet, I mean, I think these are things we are learning as humanity. It's a really interesting path we're on. So either way, now, going back to Tara, how did we blow up the planet? Yeah. So, we had, among the Alanian group, there was a group that kind of misused power. Same stories over and over again with us, right? We misused power and technology. We sided a little bit too much also with the Syrian Anunnakis, but okay, it's some soul context we need to learn. And so some of the Alanians, luckily, they got worried, and that their leadership will blow up the whole planet. And so they moved to Mu. And then they also interpret with the Lumia, which actually really helped the DNA again, because we had too much drift off in two different groups. And what they did, they formed, next to the priesthood of Mu, they formed the priesthood of Ur. And I've mentioned the priesthood of Ur because they are still active in inner earth here. In my post, I made a post on Akhenaten and Kia, which I'm going to mention later because they have something to do with this whole story. But the priesthood of Ur is an old priesthood and the priesthood of Mu, they are both active still on Tara, because as time, Tara still exists, right? And if we look at linear time, we blew it up, but if you don't look at linear time, Tara still exists. So they're active. The priesthood of Ur is also active in inner earth here, and have guided us throughout many times. So they were formed, and they became the guardian structures of the portals between Tara and what is now Earth. So, but that group, the Lanians that came over to Mu, they kind of were worried, and they did something so smart. I mean, we need to be so lucky to our ancestors. They said, look, we need to have a backup plan. If some of our little bit wild brothers and sisters gonna blow up our planet, our race is gonna get extinct. And our planet is gone. So we need to have some sort of backup plan. And this is what they did. They created the Covenant of Palidor. That was an agreement between the Syrians, Pleiadians, us humans from Tara, the Elohim, the Lyrans, the Ceres were a race we created with some other, it was Tarans with some other race, and then Lumians and Alanians from Tara, plus 4 members of the Ra Confederacy. They are from the Metagalactic Cores, the Azorites, the Atan A group, this is where Akhenaten and Kia came out of, the Ammonites and frigid, they all agreed on, okay, if Tara blows up, we're going to rescue these souls and we're going to create a blueprint of the human DNA, a field where we store the human DNA so that we can always create humans again. And this was so lucky because indeed, by the misuse of power, the crystals beneath Alania exploded and Tara's grids exploded. Tara could not anymore remerge with Gaia, which was the ascension pathway for Earth. Tara became split off, created the planets we have now in our solar system. All the planets in our solar system are connected to us and created also Earth. That's why this evolutionary cycle we are on right now it has to do with all the planets in the solar system, not just us. So as part of this covenant of Palador, the aim was really to seed humanity again and to create a link to the timeline of Tara before the destruction, so that humanity that was then basically then seeded on a leftover of Tara, which is Earth, could evolve back into Tara, into a timeline before the destructions, and then we could hopefully not make the same mistakes again and continue our evolutionary path and have basically a different timeline where Tara is not destroyed. So there is a timeline out there where Tara is not destroyed and where we just evolving naturally into Gaia. And then from Gaia we can even evolve further up because we have a 12-stone DNA. These timelines exist. And what they did, they created, so a couple of souls with the 12-stone DNA from Tara they literally gave up their existence, their life, to create what is called the sphere of Amenti. It's a morphogenetic field of our original DNA imprint. So they basically took their DNA in order for it to be saved, put it into this morphogenetic field, and it also includes all our history. So it includes all our history from Tara, how we were created with Gaia, and now it also includes Earth, because when we were seated again on Earth, souls again always ascended. Souls have to ascend through this field, through the sphere of Amenti to go into Tara. And as I said, like we had many missions here. Like, so for instance, I made this whole post on Akhenaten on Kia on their true mission in Amana, because they were both coming from the Aten group. They were the mission pair at that time, and they ascended a lot. Well, part of their mission was to ascend lost souls out back into Tara, because when Tara blew up, a lot of souls got lost in the time-space continuum. There's lost souls here on Earth. We also had catalysms here on Earth, the Lemurian, the Atlantean catalysms, where we again blew up things, not the whole planet, but land masses. We trying to relearn the things. It's like really, I sometimes think it's hilarious with us, but yeah. But these lost souls, basically, in order for them to save them, to bring them back into the morphogenetic field, we had different missions, especially the one with Akhenaten and Kia that ascended them out into Tara via the sphere of Amenti. Now, the sphere of Amenti, as I said, links into space-time of Tara's pre-fall, when Tara still existed. And it is our future planet that it's a field, because it's connected to landmass. The physicality is connected to Earth here. We are not just, when we are going out, we are not just going on a total different planet. No, it's a different frequency band. That's why we can find all these memories here in the land. That's why when I'm reading from the land, sometimes what I'm tapping into is like, it's Gaian history, it's like Tara history. It's even for me sometimes confusing, because it is stored here in the landmass, which is also incredible because you can access that. That's why we do have memories of Tara. We think we don't, but we do have. What did I want to say? I forgot it. I lost it. But it's here in the landmass, basically. That's what I want to say. I don't know. So yeah, we are not just we are not just going to a total different planet, and that's why we also have these stories, especially around the Mayans, that whole civilizations disappeared. Yeah, where did they go? They actually went up to Tara. because that was one of the things we did when we came here, was to evolve again, to go up into the dimensional band of Gaia. That's how we have stories in our mythology, how a whole civilization disappears. And the Mayans, actually, before they were taken over and hijacked by the Anunnaki Draconians in 3000 BC, they are one of our original 12 tribes. They have incredible knowledge, and yes, there was civilizations that they could ascend up to Tara back then. So the sphere of Amenti, this morphogenic field with all our DNA imprint, this is the path back to us. This is also how, through the sphere of Amenti, we remember how to activate the 12-strand DNA, because it has all the codes. It has the correct codes, because one of the issues, right, that happened with us, we've bred too much with other galactic races by our own doing, also sometimes forced interbreeding. There was a lot of race lines being created by the Anunnakis, by the Draconians, that wasn't really planned by us, but we also at times participated. We have just too much DNA in our DNA that shouldn't be there. And so in order to literally fix that, we have this sphere of Amenti, that field. And initially, so when Tara blows up and then Earth is part leftover of Tara, it was placed into Earth's core. That whole history is, according to Oceana Dean, that's like 550 million years ago. Long time ago. But when it really started to anchor in Earth's core, the sphere of Amenti was around 250 million years ago. And then from the sphere of Amenti, remember, if the sphere of Amenti allowed us to create us again, from the sphere of Amenti, our race could be created again. This is so incredible. I think our ancestors who did this, I mean, such a foresight and such a, and even they gave up their own existence for that, you know, because their DNA is part of the sphere of Amenti. Some of them, of course, not all. It was I don't know how many it was, but yeah. Either way, so through the sphere of Amenti, 6 portal bridges to Tara were created in the sphere of Amenti, and they are known as the halls of Amenti. And I'm writing about this also in my posts on Akhenaten here, if you're curious about this, because everybody, you know, is a bit crazy in the New Age community, talks about the halls of Amenti. Well, what are the halls of Amenti? They are portal bridges to Tara. And they are bridges through the spheres of Amenti, and there are 6 of them. One of them was Amra Giza. That is the whole story around the Sphinx. And it does also hold a lot of records, books, important books on discs. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff was there. And the last civilization who knew about the halls of Amenti were the Egyptians. And as I said, during the Akhenaten timeline, they ascended many people out through the halls of Amenti, because back then the halls of Amenti were open. Usually throughout our time, the halls of Amenti were not open because of history. I'm going to come at that in a second, but usually they're not open. You cannot just ascend to Tara because of all kind of things that happened, but back then they ascended things Tara. There was issues that happened, but you can read it in a post. But yeah, the sphere of Amenti got later fixed. And I'm also describing in the post something about the blue flame, because that's kind of important, because we hear a lot about the blue flame. So Tara, when you look at it as a color, as one of these original flames, Tara really holds the blue flame. That's why ascending through the sphere of Amenti goes via the blue flame, which is it's a light, but it's also a sound field. And Earth's core is actually yellow-orange. That's the frequency band. And then Gaia is, as a frequency band, is violet, mixed in with a little bit gold. And that blue flame of Tara, because that blue flame, that frequency band, that sound field, can do a lot of things. It can move objects. Yeah, it has a lot of power. That is how we could build certain buildings with that frequency, using that frequency, because we created tools that we would charge with that blue frequency through the halls of Amenti, the sphere of Amenti. We would draw out the blue frequency from the sphere of Amenti, from Tara, because on Tara we had all kind of different technology, we had all kind of abilities. With this is how we could just move stones through, literally as a thing with sound. It's a sound wave. You can see it as a color, but it's also a sound wave. You can do many other things with it too, but so what became known later as the rod and staff, you hear about this a lot as well. It's also part of, I'm describing the Ark of the Covenant boxes, where there's a lot of fights around these tools. So the rod is the frequency of Earth, the 1, 2, 3 dimension, and the staff is the blue flame of Tara. And you usually needed the staff, the blue flame, to open the halls of Amenti to Tara. That's why in the Akhenaten timeline, blue flame keepers incarnated, so people who could hold as themselves even the blue flame, who didn't need these tools out of the Ark of the Covenant, who could ascend then people out through the halls of Amenti. And there are whole schools around embodying the blue flame and embodying the flame of Tara. Secret deception teachings that we had at some point on the planet. Okay, where was I? We are back on Earth. So we're back on Earth. This is after the explosion of Tara, and sphere of Amenti is being placed here on Earth's core with the aim to seed us again here on Earth. We having the halls of Amenti. So back then, halls of Amenti were open. We were seated here and could ascend up to Tara. And different plants were seeded, animals. There were some other races that lived here on Earth, like the plants and animals also coming from other galactic races. So it's very wild, down here. And then we were seeded from the sphere of Amenti again here on this planet in 12 tribes and 5 races. And this is really what is so relevant as our recent ancestors is the 12 tribes and the 5 races. Now the 5 races is all the different skin colors as well. That's why racial discrimination is so weird, because we were seeded, with like black and white and yellow and red skin color. And did I forget any? I don't know. But you know what I mean. So there were never like differences between us, because we were seeded out of one genome. There are no differences, there are no racial differences. And we make them out now, but we were all one. Plus, we were seeded as 12 tribes. Now, the 12 tribes goes along the 12 stargates, because as I always said, we are so linked to the planet. And now our mother is Earth here. And Earth is a leftover of Tara, so it's even going back to our origin here. And we have there was a structure being built here with the 12 stargates, because the 12 stargates link into our DNA. If we are activating our full DNA, we can move through all the density levels through these 12 stargates on our planet. And these 12 stargates link into the galactic stargates. If you want to know more, if you want to know exactly the stargates, join my course Humanity the Reclamation. I'm going in depth in this. I'm also showing you there a lot of sacred sites that are connected, like what kind of structures we build to maintain these different portals and stargates, and to do different ascension teachings, all kind of things. And I'm also going deeper into the 12 tribes, because when you find out each of us is part of one of tribe. We were original on this planet, coming back as one of those tribes. So this is the ancestors we can go back to. And when you know your tribe, it's very healing. And also each tribe had specific songs. We had a language, it's called Anuhasi. And it's our original language that we had as humanity, but it's also literally going back into the God field. This is a language that is really connected to the original sound tones of harmonic creation, and we would sing songs in this language, and we would record our history in these songs. And it's just it's really nice to know your tribe. And I'm creating a more in-depth information that's also going much more in-depth than what Ashia Nadine presented on the tribes from just my travels, from going to the areas where the tribes, where the stargates are, where the tribes originally were seated, where you can still feel a lot of their information and landmass, because all of them have a different flavors. And the 5 different races were basically spread out to these different tribes. So, yeah, so the first one I started with was tribe 7, which is connected to Peru and Bolivia, and also to Greece, like the Ionian Sea, Paxos, Crete Island, that kind of area. And it's it's a very nice tribe. The next tribe I'm going to do is tribe 12, which is connected to South France, to Montségur, and to Hawaii. Hawaii is also, beautiful tribe, and each tribe has their own flavor, and it's really nice for us to discover these tribes. It brings a lot of homecoming and a lot of memories, and it's just all the tribes initially, we operated under the law of one, and under the promise of unity and a promise of peace, and we had such a different life back then. It's like it wasn't about consumerism and shopping, and it was so different, and we had many civilizations also really closer to now that still practice so much of the law of one teachings, because these teachings never gotten forgotten, even we have so much other influence here on our planet, and different teachings, and a lot of the fallen matrix thinking here, and a lot of greed and domination agendas, but the law of one teachings never ever got forgotten, and it's because it's in our DNA, it's within us, it's in the landmass of Earth as well. What we practice on Tara, it's still here. And that's why it's also so important to connect to nature, because that holds still the memories of Tara, holds us where we first came into existence, and who we are, and how we interacted with all of creation, how we interacted with knew that everything was alive and conscious, and how we interacted with trees and animals. And also the animals, of course, they had very highly evolved DNA templates, and trees hold still very highly evolved DNA templates, because you need to remember, everything that was on the planet was holding that template as well, like us. So yeah, really nice. And back then, when we were first again seated here on Earth, we had multiple seatings on Earth again. We were also Preferians, and we were not as dense as now. And this is the stories that are recorded actually now in history, where we then back then also ascended back up from here to Tara on a different dimensional band. And the first seeding was around lasted between 250 to 5 million years ago, and it ended by something called the Electric Wars. Now, the Electric Wars affected also the history of Gaia. This was like, we had many, with the fallen matrices and the fallen angelics, there were many, many wars erupting in our time matrix. We have the Lyran War, so like our ancestors, their home got destroyed. That's why they also then later lived on Sirius. Then we had the Orion Wars, which we are still greatly impacted by. The whole Orion system was taken over. We had the Electric Wars here on planet Earth, and they destroyed so much. And there was, leading up to the Electric Wars, there was already a lot of DNA digression. There was already a big history also with the Anunnakis, and with the Anunnakis you have, so there are different factions. There is part of the Anunnaki that have agreed, that have intermixed with us and have agreed to evolve up with the law of one. And they also were on Tara and evolving up on Tara with us. But then we have the most of what we're dealing with, especially in the New Age community and whatever kind of channelings, is the fallen Anunnaki fraction, the Luciferian ones, which is like all the Enki, Enlil, Toph Marduk families. They're different families, but they all belong to the fallen matrices. Different Luciferian, Illuminati, Anunnaki families. They mix of the Dracos. Toph is part of that because he betrayed humanity and sided with them a long time ago, and it led to a lot of a lot of dark history for humanity. So there isn't like really a good Enki and a good bad Enlil. No, they are all part of the same fallen group. So yeah, and that history started a long time ago already, and there was also part of the electric wars. And back then, Earth's grid fell so much in frequency that it could no longer hold the sphere of Amenti. So then the sphere of Amenti was taken out from Earth's core. And with that, what came in it's called the Seal of Palidor. This is not a covenant of Palidor, but a Seal of Palidor. It's a frequency fence. And that prevented some from ascending and evolving because we had digressed our DNA so much. There was so much interbreeding going on with fallen Anunnaki and Draconian DNA that we could not have everybody go back and ascend up to Tara, because that literally would not allow our 12-strand DNA to evolve naturally back into its full potential. So then certain groups were basically blocked from ascending, and that created whole issues in itself. And that frequency fence is that was it's still partially in action. There is still like a lot being done to actually lift that frequency fence, because with it came a lot of different things. There came a lot of like floods on Earth. The grids on Earth couldn't take any more higher dimensional frequencies. It also meant that we no longer have the soul memory when incarnating. Before that, of course, we would have full soul memory. We would know who we are. That's our birthright, to know where we are coming from and why we are here. But we would no longer know that. And we would have no memory of our history as a race, disconnected from the full 12-strand DNA. We would experience a lot of duality and separation. So this is literally what's playing out right until today. And the aim was always that we're gonna evolve back up so we can eventually open also the halls of Amenti again, bring the sphere of Amenti back at some point, so that we can, as a unified race, ascend again, or work at least on, evolving with Earth's grids as well. Now, it's an ongoing struggle. We have, though, a specific cycle now, and this is called the wait, let me think for a moment. So the stellar activation cycle. This is where Earth naturally goes through these activations, where literally the grids rise in frequency. And this is where we really have a chance to basically bring the sphere of Amenti back and open the halls of Amenti again as well. And literally, like, that's why we have such a mass awakening now, because we are in one of these cycles again, where we can really activate again parts of our DNA, where we do a lot of healing, where we have a chance basically to go beyond the frequency fences that are here. Now, after the war back then, a lot got destroyed, so we needed to be seated again, and thank God we had the sphere of Amenti, even though it was lifted out of Earth. What was installed was another portal bridge between Sirius B actually and the sphere of Amenti, so that we could be seated through there. And so we had another seating. And that one, I think it started around, according to Janadine, 3 million to 800,000 years ago. It ended again by wars, but also in that seating, because we had also back then the stellar activation cycles, we evolved to a quite high point. And there's actually, I do have memories like of that civilization, because there's still a lot of, if they had a lot of temples, like ethereal temples that I see and places. There is sometimes, I came across one other source, she called it the lion, the the lion civilization, but this just speaks back to our original creators, lions. But it's basically a civilization that is before the time that we remember most, the last cycle, where we had a third seeding, which is the last cycle, which is kind of started around 75,000 years ago. And this is the cycle where we really went into Atlantis and Lemurian history. This is the cycle we are still in now. But the cycle before that, before even the electric was the in-between cycle, this is to me where I do have memories of that time. And we had a lot of temples, we had our stargates open back again that time. Because there were also times again when the sphere of Amenti was brought back to Earth's core in between and then was taken out again. So it could be that again sphere of Amenti was being brought back. But there was a time there where we really lived like very highly evolved here, beautiful temples, like, yeah, it's a beautiful time. And then now, last one. This is the one, the time cycle we are in now, that is most affecting us right now. So last one started 75,000 years ago. Again, same, we are seeded again because again we destroyed ourselves as well. Too many wars happening with also galactic races, and as I always said, with a lot of the draconian Anunnaki fractions. Now coming back here, Lemuria and Atlantean types again seeded again, 12 tribes. 5 races. We always, here on Earth, we always say the same. That's why going back to the 12 tribes is so important, and that's why we are having these stargates. It doesn't matter if they are open or not. It's still about guarding them, because there's in the stellar activation cycle, like now, there's this opportunity for us that the gates slowly gonna open again, and that also helps us to remember who we are, and evolve up with the planet. Is as I said, it's about a dimensional jump. It's not like we're gonna like go to a different planet. It's like Earth that's also evolving. And what happened then? So we have Lemuria, Atlantis back then, and really interesting. We kind of replayed a little bit, or tried to heal maybe, the same history that we already had on Terra, with the 2 different civilizations. One a little bit more technological. A little bit more technological, a little bit more power hungry. And this was the Atlantean civilization. And in the beginning, actually, the golden age, there was a golden age of Atlantis. That was very good. But then, like 55,000 years ago, so there was a cycle of, let's say, 15,000 years. It went really well. But then 55,000 years ago, the Anunnaki resistance started to infiltrate the Atlantean culture. And Anunnaki resistance, as I said, is the groups that do not want to evolve under the law of one. They want to stay in their Dominion agenda. And this is like the Enki, Enlil, Marduk, Toph, the Nosferians, the Illuminatis. Like, I mean, yeah, this is the right group that's falling under this. They are on different planets as well. They are on the Arcturians, they are on Pleiadians. That's why there's fallen Pleiadians. That's why they control the majority of, they control the channeling movement, they control a lot of the New Age teachings. So yeah, and they interpret with we had this hybrid race, the Anu, which was an Anunnaki fraction that wanted to evolve, that contracted to evolve with us. So it's an Anunnaki human hybrid, and they are contracted to evolve with us under the law of one. But the Anunnaki kind of could really infiltrate that race, because there was already a lot of Anunnaki DNA. And honestly, this nowadays, because there's so much interbreeding going on now, all of us have some sort of reptilian, Anunnaki, whatever DNA. We have all kind of Metatronic implants. We have all kind of wild DNA. nowadays, and it's about a consciousness level. That's also, yes, I'm talking about on a DNA level, but it's about consciousness. I'm going really deeper into this in my course Humanity to Reclamation, into how actually to heal this consciousness level, because the consciousness level is about, you know, the tyrant father, the dark mother, the child that's being abused. Like, it's this kind of consciousness, you know, and we can heal this from within. You don't have to do like crazy DNA activations. You know, there are no quick fixes with this. This is an journey, an inner journey of healing the consciousness that is within us, and the duality. It's in the end of the day about healing the duality within us. And yeah, but in the end of the day, so the Atlantean culture got really infiltrated. The kind of the teachings of the law one could started to get forgotten, and there was a lot of greed and service to self. And then we had the fall of Lemuria, and later on we had different catalysms in Atlantis. So we've done the same things again, you know, blowing up a couple of things, misusing technology, and we arrived basically here now, in the here and now, and we had a real big, another big shutdown of our DNA around 10,000, and again around around 10,000 BC, and then another one around with the Dozer invasion. I think it's like 5,000 years ago, something like that. Yeah, 5,500 years ago. They're quite, yeah. And since then, we just have an immense amount of duality. We've lost so much knowledge about who we are, so much, lost so much knowledge of who we are. And now we are on a path of reclaiming it. And as I said, it's a path of really it's a path of cultivation of yourself, because, you know, with all this history and also with the different galactic races, there is no point of seeing us as a victim or blaming us, because in the end of the day, we have a soul contract here as humans. We have our there was already the fall of man, which is recorded in history, also in the Bible, right, from when we blew up Terra. And we are obviously also here to learn something, and it is in the end about us. You know, it's not about, oh, but, you know, this race is doing that and this was that. And no, the consciousness lives within us, and it's also, especially when it comes to having forgotten what is sacred. Like when you think about what we are doing now on our planets, the wars we are waging, the discrimination, the abuse, and the trafficking of our children, and we are standing by and we are seeing it. Like the abuse on our children is incredible, what's happening on our planet. And yes, like these kind of like satanistic rituals were first introduced by Draconians and Anunnakis, but in the end of the day, it is us, you know, it is us humans who are standing by and letting it happen, and us humans who are committing these crimes. So it's simply about consciousness levels that are within us, because we already have such a mixed DNA anyway. And it's about the question, are we going to remember who we truly are? And if we remember who we truly are, where we came from originally, you know, what was the promise of our 12-stranded DNA was to always be connected to the consciousness of God. And when we are connected to the consciousness of God's field intelligence, we are doing our utmost to keep life sacred and to protect our children and to protect life and to protect this planet. So it's really a personal path we are on right now, especially with the stellar activation cycle, to really do some inner searching of, okay, how much do we actually believe we have the ability for goodness, and we can make a change in the world, and we are quintessential. I think there's even this belief that we are coming from apes, or we were born sinners. It's this quintessential belief we are bad. And if we believe that, yeah, how are we going to act, right? But if we actually realize, no, our race was created as an angelic race, and we simply had an evolutionary path of trying out all kind of things, just like any other race here in the galaxy. I mean, you would be like, the amount of wars and destruction, and like it's a little bit like a kindergarten, like literally like a toddler group going on there in the universe with all these different races, and we're just one of them. And it's like, from my perspective, it's like, oh my God, But in the end of the day, it's about every race, of course, has different paths, and we have this path as well as humans, where we can evolve along the 12 dimensions, and so we can really cultivate within ourselves, because this is something to cultivate the Christ consciousness, and that a Christ consciousness is that a 15-dimensional field. It's not a person again. It's like really the promise, the field, and to cultivate that within us, this Christ consciousness, and to make like choices that are not harming ourselves and not harming others, and also, but we have a lot of duality to work through, I feel, and there is nothing bad about the duality. It's simple, a learning opportunity, and accepting our own duality also as a race, and accepting also our history, and accepting the duality within us personally, because right now, right, we are in such a timeline of duality. I think it's really important, and that leads to a lot of healing when you do that, and when we have the capacity. That's the thing. I always say this to people: we have the capacity to do absolutely amazing, great, and to be the most loving. And we also have the capacity to commit the worst harm on others. We've seen it again and again and again. And because, yes, we can go up all the dimensions, right? With this DNA. We can go down and go up always. And so what is in between, what is with this capacity is like a conscious choice, an awareness of ourselves and of the ability of the duality within us. And when we have this awareness, when we're not pushing one aside to the other, when we're not thinking we are all evil, or when we're not thinking we are all good, because we are in between, right? That's at least what I believe. We have, as I said, we have the capacity for both, but when you accept that, and when you act out of, or when you come from that middle point, then okay, I have the awareness to make certain choices. And thanks so much for listening. It's been a long podcast. Again, as I said, if you're curious, if you want to dive deeper than this, especially into the healing part, because a lot of my course Humanity Reclamation focuses really on all the different aspects that we can address ourselves as well, that can come up for our own healing, and just also simply of deeper understanding of who we are and what kind of forces are at play. Then I invite you into the course. There's also many examples of our amazing ancestors, of all the amazing things they did, and how they worked with Mother Earth, and how they really upheld the law of one, and what it's like to what it is like to live under the law of one. I think sometimes it's also so important to remember this and to really have those memories come back. Because the moment you have memories coming back of what life under the law of one is like, and that we at times for thousands, millions of years, we lived peacefully here on earth, but also on Terra, under the law of one. And if you remember that we are able to do this, and we have a chance again to do this now, because now we are awakening, we have another stellar activation cycle. We have a chance to really tune back into our higher strands of DNA. Yeah, it's kind of beautiful. It's beautiful. So with that, I'll let you go. Thanks so much, and yeah, hopefully until next time. Bye-bye. Follow me on Instagram for grounded spirituality, ancient wisdom, and nature-based living.